Hey everyone, this is a video for the intro to percents, ratios, and proportions, objectives 71 through 73. So because it's just 71 through 73, that means the next test will again be just on 3 objectives, so 15 questions. So the notes here shouldn't take too long. We're going to be looking at these 3 objectives here, these 3 topics. Instead of just going in order through the problems, I'm going to do them by section here. So first, we're going to look at these type of problems, determine the approximate percent of a region shaded. So I think for the most part, these shouldn't be too bad. It's just basically approximating, doing approximating of a shade, just looking at a picture. I think a lot of you can do this. So the first one will be number 20 here. Again, if you don't have this packet, make sure you go get your Intro to PRP packet. Hit pause on this, go get that. Turn to the page. It starts off with objective 71 here, and then get to number 20. So number 20 says the first rectangle is divided into fourths. It says what percent of the second triangle is shaded. So dividing something into fourths is pretty easy, because if you take this line here, that you just split it in half. So that's 50%, 50%. And then if you take each of that in half, now you have it in the fourths. And now the key thing for these type of problems is to know that, just as I was talking there, if we cut it in half, then we have 50% and 50%. So this would be 50%. You cut that in half, you get 25%. So each of these sections is 25%. And that adds up to 100%. Okay. So if we need to estimate this, and out to here is 25%, then that would be, down in this area is 25%. Nothing over 25 could even be a possible answer, because we're less than, the shaded is less than 25. So this is out and this is out. Okay. So now you got to look at what makes more sense, 5 or 15. So this shaded looks to be a little more than half of this 25% box. So this 25% box would be here to here, and the shaded takes up a little bit more than half of that. So what's a little bit more than half of 25? Well, 5 is not even close to half. And so 15 is a little bit over half. If you needed to figure out what half of 25 is, divided by 2, you get 12.5. So halfway through this box, which would be kind of in here, would be 12.5%. So 15 would be our answer. Okay. We're going to skip and do a couple more of these, and then we'll go back to the other type of problems. So you're going to turn the page, number 29. And so again, this is the same thing. Each one of these is 25%. If you don't understand again how I got that, you don't ask me a question after this, write me a message and I'll take more time to explain. So this line right here, we have 25 and 25. So this up to this line, that's 50%. Okay. Now this line out to here is another 25%. So from here all the way to here is 75%. So we got to look for something between 50 and 75, and it looks a little closer to 50. So 40 is less than 50, that's not it. 80 is over 75, so that's not it. Okay. 50 would be right on this line, so that's not it. And then 60, that's between 50 and 75, and it looks to be a little closer to 50. That would be a correct answer. Okay, so those are ones with rectangles, and how to do those. We're going to look at a couple circle ones. Okay, So we'll turn the page again. We'll do, there's 3 here. We'll do 2 of them. So same type of thing. If we have a circle, that's a pretty bad circle. It's pretty easy to cut it in fourths again. So here, one line, 50%, 50%. But if we do it again, same way as the rectangle, each of these parts is 25%. Okay, so if we did that on here, the line's not exactly straight. It's a little tilted, but it would be something like this. So the shaded region, this is 25, this is 25, this is 25. So that's 75 right there. Okay, all 4 together would be 100. Now this looks like it's a little over half of this other box. So first of all, it's got to be over 75. So let's cross everything off that's not over 75. So that's out, that's out. So now we're looking between 80 and 90. Okay, so 75. Now we said this looks to be a little bit over half of this 4th section is shaded. And remember, if we said half, before we said, if we took half of 25, that was 12 and a half or 12.5. Okay, so just using that as a basis here, if we have 75 and then another 12.5, and I think it's even more than that. We could have used like 13 or something. But if we add those together, we get 87.5. I think that would be at the minimum. So if we look at our 2 answers here, 7.5 is closer to 90. So that would be the correct answer. Okay. Again, if I went a little fast, rewatch it. And then if it doesn't make sense, ask me a question. We'll do 1 more of these, and then I think the other type of problems are even faster. I'm going to go down, and we'll do this one just because it's at a different type of a angle. Okay, now don't let that the shading is over here fool you. Take one of these lines and continue it and make that your halfway point. Okay, so even though it's at a little bit of an angle, okay, and then you want to make another line that crosses at a right angle, meaning 90 degree, and it looks like it's lining up right on. Okay, now that won't happen all the time, but again, these are all 25. So in this case, it happens that it lines up basically exact. And so this one's for sure out because it's not most of the circle. All of these are fairly close, but if you draw this in, I think it's at least 25, so I think that's out. And it looks to be, you know, I think I did this pretty well drawing, so I think it's closer to 25% than 30. I think 30 would be just, you know, if we took this and went just a little bit more like that and shaded that in. Okay, so those are the shaded type problems. Now we're going to go back and take a look at some basic problems with, first of all, let's look at convert a decimal to a percent. Okay, so over here, I'll just take just the general rule, decimal to percent. Okay, decimal to percent means it's a couple ways you can look at it. You can multiply by 100. That'll get you to a percent. Or you can think of the same way of doing that is move decimal right 2 spaces, which is the same as make the number bigger by 2 spaces. So the percent is the bigger form of the number. If you have a decimal and a percent, percent is the bigger form of the number by 2 spots. So if we have 0.75, we need to go 1, 2. Now the decimal ends up there, and it's 75%. Okay, and for this section, we'll get to harder ones, but for this section, they are pretty much that easy. Okay, I think there's another one. Let me see. We want to do. I think just number 21 is another problem. Decimal is a percent. We have 0.31. We move it 1, 2, 31% right here. Now, I don't think they have an example like this, but just another example is if we had 0.5, just one number instead of 2. Okay, you still move it 2 spots. So you go 1, 2. Any open spot, you put a 0. So this would be 50%, not 5%. Okay, just in case you see something like that. And then the last type of problem we're going to see, convert a percentage to a decimal. So a percent to a decimal is just the opposite of what we have up here. Okay, again, if this is going too fast, pause it. If my handwriting's hard to read, pause, listen, and then write it down. Excuse me. So to get it from a percent to a decimal, you can divide by 100, but we don't usually think of it that way. That means you move the decimal left 2 spaces. Okay, or you make the number smaller by 2 spaces. Those all mean the same thing. Okay, so let's put, these are just kind of general notes. Okay, so 2 more problems and then we are done. Okay, so we're going to take a percent. Now this is actually starts off as one of the harder ones. So let's take a percent. So we're at 1%. We're going to move the decimal 2 spots to the left, or make it smaller by 2 spots. Now, if you don't see a decimal, it's like saying it's at the end of the number. So if we started here and went 1, 2, so the decimal version is always smaller by 2 spots. If there's an open spot, we put a 0. So this is 0.01. Okay, would be our answer. Now there's a lot of other ones that look similar here, so just take your time and do that correctly. So 1% would be 0.01. All right, let's do one more of those where we take a decimal to a percent to a decimal. So I think we'll skip over the ones. Oh, you got to take a picture of this page anywhere. So let's find percent to a decimal. So number 24 here, it's 22%. And we're going to go 1, 2. Okay. And that brings us to 0.22 for the decimal because we made it smaller by 2 spots. And you get letter B. Okay. So let's see, we got these 2 things you should have written down, and we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 problems. Okay, so you should have copied all that down. copy that down, take a picture of it, send that to me. That's easy points. Again, that's 50% of your grade. So easy points, send that to me. And then the next day after you've taken this, you should be taking the test, or sorry, the next day after I post this, you should be taking the test. You could ask for the test the same day if you're behind and watching this late. But try some of these other problems. There's plenty of other problems here. You don't have to do them all. Try some of them, see if you're getting the answers right. And again, the answers are right here. Okay, they're out of order because they go by topic. So you just have to look up the number, like 22 is here, and so on. If you're getting them right, you're ready for the test. If you're not getting some of them right, ask me a question. We'll go over those. So if you have any questions, let me know.